back to stage 2 here at Sustainability Live London 2025. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us online. To those in the room, thank you for getting here through the tube strike, and thank you for not going to the Christmas toy exhibition, which is going on in the other half of the building. That they were playing I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas over the speakers a few minutes ago, and I thought, well, with climate warming and the way it's going, you'll be lucky. But we're here to talk about decarbonisation and global decarbonisation strategies, and we have an excellent panel here to talk us through that. We'll take questions, I don't know, halfway through or whenever's a good time. So do catch my eye and put your hand up if you're in the room, and we'll try and get a microphone to you. And if you're watching online, I'll try to get to your questions. They come straight through to my iPad. To talk about global decarbonisation strategies, I'm not going to introduce the panel. It's far more effective and accurate if the panel introduces themselves. So Tom, fire away.
Hi, afternoon everyone. Tom Abel, I'm one of the directors at Business Stream. So we provide about 300,000 customers with water management solutions. So the focus there, right the way across our business, is to look at things like water efficiency, water scarcity, water stewardship, but also work with those organisations upstream, downstream within their supply chains as well on how that integrates with the wider sustainability picture.
Thanks.
Brilliant afternoon, everyone. So my name is Alex Sutton, Head of Climate for SSE. SSE is a UK-listed energy company that we develop, operate, and invest in electricity infrastructure needed for a clean, affordable and secure energy system. Our portfolio ranges from onshore and offshore wind, hydro generation, batteries, solar, flexible generation, and electricity networks. I suppose my role is focused on oversight of our net zero transition strategy and our approach to climate risk.
Akanksha.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Akanksha. I am the Global Senior Director for Sustainability for Radisson Hotel Group. So Radisson Hotel Group has over 1,500 hotels all across the globe, Europe, Middle East, Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Pacific, and China. We do have a net zero by 2050 target, and I think that is the focus for the group right now towards decarbonization, and that is primarily what my role is.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deborah Carlin. I'm Head of Sustainability for Müller UK and Ireland. So we make some wonderful products. So our iconic Müller corner you'll all be familiar with, but we also make lots of milk, cream and butter and other dairy products too. My role within the business is to drive the sustainability strategy. We have a People Planet Partners framework, which I facilitate across our business and work cross-functionally to try and embed sustainability into everything that we do.
I'm Layton Hill, Vice President of Strategy for Schneider Electric in the UK and Ireland. Schneider can help you electrify, digitize, and decarbonize. We have 4,000 employees in the UK and Ireland across 8 different sites. So I would say we're expert in helping others in their decarbonization journey, but as a good French company, we say we drink our own champagne. So we have a lot of sites and facilities that we have to decarbonize, and all of our tools and solutions get tried out and tested in our own footprint before with customers. So.
Thank you, Layton, and thank you to Schneider for sponsoring this particular segment. Can you set the scene? Everybody in here is bought into decarbonisation, and every company one speaks to will say they're bought into decarbonisation. But reality is different in terms of delivery and how far you are down the journey. What do you say to organisations that actually aren't making progress that one would assume they should be?
Well, I think start somewhere. So it can be a very daunting challenge. It's a big mountain to climb. And it's very hard to tackle all at once. But I think this is a great example of a gathering of a lot of potential partners that can help. I look at small and medium enterprises a lot as a challenge because, below a certain number of headcount or employees, it's very hard to justify a full-time role for someone dedicated to sustainability, like a lot of the people here. And so I think it's a challenge that we have at Schneider, but lots of us have to try and reach sort of the tranche beyond the early adopters, and in many cases that's small and medium enterprises. But I think start somewhere, find a partner. Lots of them are here, and there are experts that can help you along your way.
I think just out of decency, I should ask or give you the opportunity to say how Schneider helps its clients. Any use cases, any particular stories you can draw out?
Yeah, certainly. So we operate in a lot of different segments, everything from data centers to serving manufacturers. I guess broadly our business is divided into energy management and industrial automation. So on the energy management side, you could think of everything from building management systems. So there's a great example of a flagship office building nearby, 150 Holborn, that is really setting standards across the world for very low energy intensity, using all sorts of smart technology. So can sense whether people are in the room, adjust the thermostat accordingly, so you're saving on heating and cooling. There's just an awful lot of technology behind a lot of these solutions that requires, I think, a strong partner that has a lot of different expertise across different disciplines of energy management to implement decarbonization strategies.
Okay, panel, it's free for all. One hesitates to offer advice to other companies, but we are privileged here and we can. What nuggets of advice would you throw out if I forced you to do so?
Well, I'd say collaboration is really key. To your point, working with the partners, finding that network that can, you can get in there, have a safe space and a conversation on how you move this forward. Particularly in the dairy sector, we work very closely with our trade association, where we've got all of our members together. The dairy roadmap has been in operation for 18 years now, but we've recognised more recently we need to broaden that out. So the partnership that we've developed going forward includes more of the value chain, so retailers and food service companies as well. So just start that conversation and start just understanding, okay, well, where can you play your part and how can you share those examples of good practice with others in the industry?
Yeah, and I think probably just to build on the point Layton was saying, any progress is progress, right? Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to fail. You have a lot of businesses that are setting targets, and it was actually one of your colleagues yesterday, Layton, said that only 10% of the Fortune 500 achieved their sustainability targets last year. Now, you can look at that in both ways. You can say, oh, that's a miserable failure, 90% failed, or you can actually look at the amount of progress that would have been made by those organizations trying to achieve those targets. So setting those targets, making them ambitious, not being afraid to fail, because progress is still progress as you go through that. A number of organizations we work with, we will set really ambitious targets in terms of the reduction they're trying to achieve, and we won't always achieve them, and they won't always achieve them. But if we hadn't done that, they would have been in a worse position. So just try and get that ambition, and then when you're doing that, just make sure there is that alignment right the way up in terms of the leadership, whether it's in your business, in your supply chain, whether you're collaborating with other partners. Because if you don't have that alignment and leadership from the top, we certainly in our business, the KPIs for the organization are linked right the way up to our chief exec, to our board. Remuneration for every employee is linked to our sustainability achievements, and it buys in a better culture throughout the organization. And I've seen that work really well in our organization. So you do need to make sure there's that cultural alignment as well.
Right. I see that for business, it's very important to set targets and set standards towards sustainability, that this is what you want to achieve, but it's also important for us to set examples. So as a company, we have to show the various units that this is the ideal situation where you have to go to. For example, at Radisson Hotel Group, we have recently launched something called verified net zero hotels, which are just 2 hotels out of 1,500 of our portfolio. So those are the verified net zero hotels where we have dealt with 60% of carbon footprint reduction for Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. Now, at this stage, can any hotel in Europe, Middle East, Africa, South Asia can go for that status? Maybe no. But we are telling them that this is what you aspire for. So setting those standards or examples to go forward to, I think that is something as a business we have to work towards, and not just within the company, also understanding what Schneider is doing or what other industries, manufacturing companies are doing, because hospitality is a very small part of the whole ecosphere. So we need to understand the best case examples from others and then tell us, okay, this is where we want to go to.
Brilliant. I think just building on that point, as you touched on, very much the focus is idealism and potentially stretching targets. But I'd also then add, I think we're very much now in the period of implementation. I think we've gone away from the period of ambition. So I think I would probably see it that constantly a lot of our jobs for sustainability is balancing that idealistic world versus the realism. And for me, I think we should be very much focusing around pragmatism, but very much focusing on delivery. And going back to your earlier point as well, is don't delay. A decarbonisation strategy is better than no decarbonisation strategy.
So if you look at your company decarbonisation strategies, where are you at? And forgive me for being negative, what are the blockers that you're hitting? What are the blocks that you're hitting that you haven't yet solved? And can we solve them here today, collectively?
I don't mind starting. I mean, we've made great strides in terms of, sort of EV vehicle policies. We've moved to a more energy efficient building, sustainable travel policies. What I would say is we've done a lot of, in inverted commas, the easier things, the big chunky things.
Of course.
And I think we're probably quite similar to other businesses, is you're now almost going back to the start again to chip away at the smaller things. And they're the more challenging items. And the problem with those, and we see that, and other businesses see that, is the financial benefit or return to an organisation is so much harder to justify on those small things than it is on the bigger things, because you see that much quicker payback.
So why should the board bother?
Well, so there's it's not just about top line and bottom line, right? So it is about people, it is about culture, it is about your perception in the marketplace, how your brand is perceived, and a lot of those things play into the value of your business. You can read countless different articles of employment attraction from the Gen Z generation of sustainability-led business over those that aren't. You will attract better talent going through that as well. So there's more to top line and bottom line, but yes, sometimes that is all shareholders care about. So you've got to balance those two things.
I think one of the questions that we should ask is, what is the cost of that inaction? If you're not taking an action today, there is a transformational change for the business that has to happen. The future for a business is a sustainable business, right? So the cost has to come either today or tomorrow. So either you make it like throughout the time, you take that cost in and make sustainability into your DNA, or you take that cost in when the compliance and mandate hits you. So I agree, the challenge for us as well, Radisson being an operator in the hospitality industry, it's the alignment of investment with the long-term value that a hotel owner or the CEO of the company is looking for. And I think that's where the buy-in from the stakeholder is important, either from financial or the reputational or, or from all the directions, right? So yeah, either you do it today, you can talk about ROI, you can talk about payback period, but there's beyond that, which is going to hit tomorrow. So start working towards it, get the buy-in from the hotel owners, set examples and say that there is a benefit which can be a revenue driver today, or maybe not, but still you have to still keep working towards it.
Exactly, and just to build on that, again, I think it's getting that buy-in from the top. It's got to come from the top, and trying to explain to them obviously what are the benefits, but also what are the potential risks that are going to come from that. To your point around the kind of costs, you either pay now or you pay later. From a Müller perspective, we're in the stages of we've done all the low-hanging fruit, and now it's about looking at kind of where's that demand reduction still, how can we shrink the bubble before we then start to look at the decarbonisation, and then from that investment perspective, and trying to engage our board again around that investment piece in terms of, look, it's an imperative, it's a business resilience, and an opportunity for us to demonstrate leadership in this area.
So to address the point that Tom and you both have made, that we've done the low-hanging fruit bit, it's the smaller stuff that's so much the challenge. Can you give me examples? Can we have examples that people here can write down, plagiarise and take away?
Yeah, I'll go ahead because I completely agree in terms of, I think and I'll build on the points before that we've very much focused on aligning our business strategy so that we don't have a separate climate strategy, sustainability strategy to our business strategy. Very much we're focused around decarbonising our generation. I suppose in terms of some of those examples, we were at 25 million tonnes in 2012, and we've reduced that by 80%. So we're on good progress. We're down to 5 million tonnes, and we're now into those more challenging areas. But there's one area that I particularly focus on, which is around Scope 3. In terms of, very much from an energy company perspective, the primary climate benefit that we're driving is decarbonising the grid, enabling electrification. But at the same time, we've got to build the critical energy infrastructure needed for that. So certainly in the short to medium term, our Scope 3 emissions are going to go up. So it's very much challenges there around low carbon products and solutions as well.
I think even though Schneider aspires to be a very local, the most local of global companies, we are a global manufacturer, and that means complex supply chains and a vendor ecosystem, a constellation really of lots of different types of suppliers that all have different capabilities. And I think having regionally appropriate targets is really important as well. I think here in the UK and in Europe, there's greater maturity, there's a grid mix tilting toward green. It's a little harder, I think, to bring suppliers along that are in different parts of the world or a different part of their journey. And so I think that's an ongoing initiative that we have, but also a challenge to bring our whole vendor ecosystem along with us on the journey.
And I think on that point, there's less control on your supply chain, right?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to make a change to your own business, within reason, you should be able to do it, right? Because it's your business, it's your people, you're in complete control of it. When you have a supply chain, and yes, you can go out and choose different suppliers, you can operate with them differently, but that may take time. You may be in a 3-year cycle with a certain supplier before you can change certain things. So you can't click your fingers and change things for the better overnight. So some of those things do take a lot of time. You need to plan for that. It needs to be embedded in your strategy. You really need to be thinking ahead in terms of where you are operating in the supply chain and how you interact with them, and really be horizon scanning 3, 5, even 10 years ahead on where that is. That's really hard when you bring technology into play because, with AI and everything that's going on, we genuinely don't know where the technology world is going to be, even tomorrow, let alone in 3, 5, 10 years' time. You'll go next door, you'll find out more. But, if you hear all of that, that's very, very hard for us to plan that. But if you work within your supply chain, within those organizations, they can give you a lot more guidance. So do reach out and use them to help them support your business strategy as well. It shouldn't all just come from you. There's lots of, as you say, collaboration to really help you get there.
Can we drill down on Scope 3? That's exactly the direction I wanted to head, although I wanted to come back and talk about the whole regionality bit, and I thought that what you were saying, Akanksha, was speaking to that. But let's just drilling down onto the huge problem, which is Scope 3, and we've spent 2 days on this stage worrying about that. Any strategies and good examples that you can offer about how to crack that nut, how to encourage your suppliers to work with you to decarbonise?
So I think from a Müller perspective, the largest part of our footprint is in agriculture.
Yeah.
So we've been working really closely with our supplying farmers, and it is a challenge, and it's about making sure that we're giving them advice and guidance and showing them kind of where they need to go, but ultimately it's got to come from them as well. Farmers listen to farmers. So we have a program called the Müller Advantage program, and we have sustainability workshops. So we'll bring those farmers together and we'll get them to be talking to each other about what they need to do and what's been working for them. Equally, it's about the data. So we've got 100% of our farms that are carbon footprinted. So again, we're using that data to give them the insight to where they can take the action. And then we go on that conversation and that partnership arrangement to say, it's knowledge transfer. So let's not try and solve everything. Let's really drill it down to those hotspot areas where we can make the difference. We've got a fast track program. And again, what we're trying to do is trying to get a bit more real-time data. So again, that we can point them toward where to take that action that's going to reduce the footprint. And it's working. Since 2022, we've been able to take 7% 31% reduction in our farm emissions already. So again, just trying to work with them and meet them at their level with that knowledge transfer and peer-to-peer learning is how we're moving it forward. So we're not trying to address everything. We're going with where our key hotspots are at this moment in time.
We do a similar, so we have biannual strategy days with all our suppliers. So what we bring them into the business, we walk them through where our business is going and where that support is needed, and we ask for their input and their help to help define that strategy. So it's not just us setting that strategy, it's the sort of the whole wider network of that. So very similar and in terms of what they're doing at Müller. And that's really helped. And some brilliant ideas have come out of that, things we genuinely wouldn't have thought of, but that's coming from our supply chain, how between the two of us we can operate in a better way.
But is this effective at the moment? Is it actually helping you decarbonise?
Yes.
Can you measure it?
Yes, so we can measure it on our journey when we look at we are our net zero plan out to 2030, and it's it's vary between the different scopes, but we are able to measure that on an annual basis. So some of our meter reading suppliers, for example, we can measure the reduction that's coming through from that. But a lot of that comes through data, right? So if you don't have the data, you can't measure it.
Yeah, that's really important.
But just building on a point there, I suppose, as well, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. I think we all understand that Scope 3 measuring and reporting is challenging, but at the same time, I suppose, Deborah, going to your point around very much focusing around materiality, driving change, collaboration. I suppose one approach that we've done, obviously I've touched on, we acknowledge that our Scope 3 emissions are going to go up in the short to medium term, has very much been engaging like key suppliers, setting their own targets as well, collaborations, and also sharing best practice knowledge. So it's very much around an engagement of trying to reduce emissions where possible, but from a materiality lens.
Right. Okay, I completely agree with all of you with collaboration, hands-on, hand-holding, etc. But I think negotiation by procurement also plays a very huge role. As we do it for the cost, we also have to do it for sustainability in the supply chain. So at Radisson Hotel Group, we make sure that every supplier is there on EcoVadis and have a rating from them. For the verified net zero hotels that I talked about, there was a strong negotiation with the suppliers associated with these hotels that you have to be on the decarbonization journey and you have to reduce your carbon footprint. And with that, we were able to reduce the carbon footprint by 60%. So unless that negotiation, a very strong negotiation, comes in place by procurement team, hand-holding plays a huge role. We need to make them learn. We need to make them set their own targets, but we have to also set standards that this is what we expect from you. These are the targets to be achieved. And that's what we are working towards.
And just to build on that as well, I mean, there's the balance between carrot and stick, isn't there? So, you could use lots of sticks to try and get the supply chain to move in the right direction, but actually there is a cost to this, and we do need to be recognising that. So our Müller Advantage programme is incentivised, so the farmers that sign up to that, they get an extra penny per litre for engaging. So again, that's helping them, to bring that investment back into the business to then drive the actions that we want to see. So I think there's the carrot and stick element to play into this as well.
I did think while you were talking that I come from a rural area, and the only thing that speaks to the farmers in my area is what goes into their wallet. So I'm sure that's the commercial reality, is it not?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
We have a question. My colleague Kendra is going to grab a mic and pass it to a lady on the sort of effective third row there.
Hiya. Thank you, everyone. I realised that with low-hanging fruit in particular when it comes to decarbonisation, it does tend to align with other sustainability topics, water, biodiversity, circularity. But when it comes to that more challenging element, when you're looking for the different parts, I've found that then you start getting a bit of a pull in different directions from different areas. So, for instance, I realise this example might not be particularly relevant to any of you individually, but like fish counters moving away from the ice that they put their fish on back to packaged fish because of the water usage. How do you manage balancing the pulls when it comes to strategy and decarbonisation from the already tightly strung and thinly laid like sustainability teams? How do you prioritise one thing over another? Because obviously carbon's been the star child for so long, how do you make it a holistic thing?
So I don't have a specific example, but generally this is where long-term targets are really, really important, right? So if you have your long-term business targets anchored both from a sustainability and a business performance point of view, it is then easier for you to weigh off that decision. And sometimes you may be making what you feel is the wrong decision because actually one sways more way than the other. But if all of those decisions ultimately get you to your sustainability targets and your business targets, globally or from a macro level, you are making those right decisions. But you're right, there will be times when you're sitting in a room and why are we making this decision? Because that's not the right sustainability decision or vice versa. But having those longer term targets, having those ambitions is the most important thing because it keeps everybody moving in the same direction. So you will at times feel like you're making the wrong decision. Again, it's not always perfect, but every decision can't be made from a multitude of different lenses.
I think lining up a commercial, you want to be pushing on an open door. And so by finding a commercial opening for whatever change it is that you're trying to make, I mean, back to the vendor ecosystem, we're large purchasers. We're generally a light manufacturer. We're not doing cement or steel or glass, but we do use a lot of steel in our products, and we're trying to buy more low carbon steel. What I mean by pushing on an open door is, in the London area, there's quite a bit of pressure to manage and measure embodied carbon in building. And so that low carbon steel has value that we can then take to those partners of ours, whether it's contractors or design firms, and we can say, look, your building can have lower embodied carbon if you can come with us on the slight price premium journey to get this low carbon steel. So I think finding a commercial opening allows you to leverage beyond just the sustainability team, your whole sales organization, which often is more well staffed than our teams.
Yeah. So I suppose building on that point in targets, commercialization, I completely agree. And I can also, to relate to your challenges, I think some practical advice that certainly that I've been given is being completely transparent with the trade-offs. And the other thing that is key is facts, not arguments. It's very easy when you're dealing with different teams who've got different agendas or focus, but just being very clear what's a fact versus what's an argument practically as well.
We've solved your problems at a stroke. Something you said, Layton, reminds me of something that I wanted to bring up, which is about net zero and the equation between that and cost. It doesn't need to increase your cost. In fact, in your experience, it's the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I think that green can equal growth. I mean, we just, a few of us were just opening a new factory in Scarborough for Schneider Electric on Monday. And I think that's a great story of lots of low and medium voltage distribution equipment that's going primarily to the EV charging use case and segment. And that's an example where the green transition really is as fleets and other users come online with electric transportation. We're creating, on track to creating 700 really good paying jobs in the northeast of the UK. And so I think there's often, in the news and otherwise, a tension is felt between green and growth. And I think we are here to say that we need to find the coincidence between pursuing net zero and finding those commercial opportunities as well.
So with apologies to the panel, and this includes you, Layton, can you now give me any concrete examples of how your decarbonisation programme has generated for the bottom line? Any further examples?
I'll give you I mean, we've worked on a number of customer programs where not only have we helped reduce the amount of water or waste that an organisation is using, but that's directly benefiting the bottom line, directly reducing their carbon footprint. And actually, every project we enter into is built with that in mind.
What can people write down and plagiarise?
Well, it's hard to share specifics about individual customers, right? So, for that reason, I wouldn't go into it. But we save billions of litres of water a year for our customers. So every project we enter into, we will not do it unless we are seeing both a carbon benefit and a financial benefit. Largely because it's very hard for organisations to buy into that otherwise, because there are usually higher priority ticket items on their OPEX or their CAPEX budget to invest in. So, doing it for the right reasons is no longer enough, unfortunately. Right? There has to be a commercial benefit. And that is, aligns with all the things that pretty much everyone's been saying, is that you must make that commercial justification. It can be small, it doesn't have to be enormous, but doing it just for the right reasons is no longer enough.
That's correct. And I think commercial justification kind of changes when you move from one region to another. And I've seen that, like, for example, renewable electricity. So when I talk about a hotel sitting in UK, I am going to talk about revenue generation if a hotel is on 100% renewable. So a lot of business clients are going to come in, there will be more conversion rate. That's the kind of business case that we build. But when I move to South Asia and put myself in that shoes, the renewable electricity is cheaper than brown electricity in there. So that's the kind of business case I've put in there. So that's where cost saving is happening. So I think the case and the commercial case around sustainability changes from one geography to another a lot. The kind of culture people bring, the kind of policies we have, the kind of compliances we have. So yeah, it's just that we have to find the right conversation and the right pitch to build in for the client that we have.
Yeah, and I did want to bring in this whole subject of global regionality, and you are so well placed to talk about that, I'm afraid, Akanksha. How important is it to have region-specific plans, and what comes out of those that can help in other regions? What can you recycle?
What can we recycle? So overall decarbonization strategy for a company, because it's a company and the sustainability team is somewhat very small in most of the companies, I think it's kind of, we have one strategy, we have one target, then you have to then trickle that down to each of the region and understand what is the demand of that market. So if I am in Southeast Asia, if I am in Bangkok, and if I talk about heat pumps, that might not be the right conversation to have at this stage. I mean, it can be or it cannot be. Or renewable electricity, because there's no... if I go to Middle East and start talking about renewable electricity today, that might not be the right conversation to go on off-site renewable or on-site renewable in there. So I think the strategy remains the same, the targets remain the same, then you have to trickle those targets down to each of the region, because there's no... no shoe that fits, no size that fit all the shoes.
Yeah, one size doesn't fit all. Yeah, they're with you on that.
Right, so yeah, then you have to start building what has come from the top and what can you bring from the bottom and marry that together as the part of implementation. Right, so that's what we are right now progressing on.
Is that challenge of regionalisation, is it a block, is it a barrier, or other experiences to overcome that?
Well, I don't see that as barrier. I mean, every region has its own opportunities and challenges. Few regions have a lot of solar energy, whereas the others might be more advanced in some other technologies. So I see that more of a wider spread of buffet that you can take an advantage on and create your targets as such, so that this region has a lesser target, this one has a more stringent target, and we bring them together and we'll be able to achieve our targets there. So we see momentum everywhere. It's just that how we accelerate on the path for every region, that's going to be very different.
Can we move on to the vast and nebulous subject of tech, and the role that tech plays in helping you achieve your strategies? What are you using that's innovative and exciting you at the moment, and look forward to what you expect to be using?
Using AI. So AI is, can be a punching bag in these circles, but there are a lot of use cases for AI that will help us use less energy in aggregate as a society. And so just for example, our Resource Advisor platform helps synthesize, the mountain of data that exists for many large and increasingly even smaller companies have mountains of data as well. But synthesizing that data, getting actionable insights that can lead to energy savings, cost savings, decarbonization is, I think, a good example of how technology and in particular AI can help us along the way.
Yeah, from our side, very similar. I mean, everyone's got too much data these days, and I think the challenge we see, we've got lots of great data visualization tools for our customers that helps them understand their usage better, helps them, reduce their sort of carbon footprint in the services they're using. But every organization has suppliers coming out their ears that are putting visualization platforms in front of them, and you really need to spend the time with the customers, with your supply chain, with your staff, whatever it is, to embed that into the ways of working. Otherwise, it will just be another platform that people use or don't use for that matter. So really think about, A, get that data, B, get it into the right way so there's insights driven from it, but then C, how do you operationalize that through whatever mechanism, supply chain internally, wherever it is, so that people are targeted to use that to make benefits from it. Otherwise, it'll just be another website that no one visits and no one uses. Genuinely, and we will all have examples of that. So make sure it's used, make sure it's effective.
What tech is coming along that any of you guys see will help you with physical decarbonisation, hydrogen, carbon capture? What is out there that's exciting you?
No, I was going to build on that point. But certainly from an AI perspective, you need to generate, or you need power to generate and supply the AI. So I think it's fair to say that we've seen significant development from a technology perspective and the growth in the renewables side of things. But when the wind doesn't blow or the sun isn't shining, that you need backup flexible generation. So certainly from a carbon capture and storage perspective and green hydrogen is certainly needed from a flexible power generation perspective. I think it's also fair to say that the pace of policy development isn't as mature as potentially we would like. So I think this is something we're probably going to see in the 2030s rather than prior to 2030, but it's going to be an essential tool in terms of ensuring that we have clean power systems. So very much the IPCC, the UK Climate Change Committee, very much see carbon capture and storage and hydrogen as part of the solution of our grid mix.
Any other tech that's exciting you?
No, I see green hydrogen as a very exciting area that's going to build up. So, the facilities that cannot go on complete electrification, they are definitely going to switch from natural gas, LPG, diesel to green hydrogen. So that is something I look up to, which is going to also come in the hospitality industry in the few years.
We can't have a conversation about global decarbonisation without touching on the winds of change. And I'm thinking about political attitudes, which needs no further explanation. From the 2 days on stage that we've had here, I don't hear that is reducing companies' drive to decarbonise. It's going on maybe just a little bit more quietly in some quarters of the globe. Is that what you're seeing? Do you see the drive unaltered?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's always going to happen. There's always going to be those political challenges, and it's very short-termism. But I think that the points that was made in the panel earlier, we're taking a bit more of a longer-term orientation around this stuff, and businesses do have the ability to be able to look a little bit more long term and focus in on those strategies that will stand the course of time and the test of time. They will need to evolve and they will need to shape, absolutely, as the politics come in, regulations, all that kind of thing. But I think businesses have that opportunity that we need to keep on this journey.
Well, as the panel's resident American, I would say that I don't think, the news is not all good for the sustainability world coming out of the U.S., but I think from Schneider's perspective, it's made us sharper in that part of the world in terms of talking about economic co-benefits. So I look forward to, learning more from that experience and sort of reframing and reprioritizing the benefits around cost savings is certainly something that resonates almost across the board. And we have to lead with cost savings and those commercial drivers more in some regions than we have in the past. Fortunately, we can still be very proud to be the world's most sustainable country here in the UK and in Europe. But I think it does help us to get sharper with some of our other benefits where we have to.
Yeah, so very much so in terms of that long-term view, that sharper view. I think the other broader context that I would bring as well is not losing sight of, one, the enormity, what we're trying to achieve, but also, as you touched on there, Layton, the progress that we've made in the UK. So you look at it from a UK perspective, we've reduced our emissions by over 50% since 1990. Renewable energy was the largest source of electricity on the power grids last year, and similarly we closed our last power station, our last coal power station in the UK last year. So certainly from an energy perspective, the transition and electrification is very much an unstoppable force. It will happen. It's just a case of when and the time.
We mentioned AI as one of the tech drivers earlier. And I'm always terribly cynical because we can employ more data centers and more AI. It's just passing the buck on to people like you, isn't it? And if you look at the BP example, fossil fuel consumption is increasing apace. It's simply passing the buck, or how do you not pass that buck?
You've reduced demand. So fossil fuel companies are going to carry on doing what they're doing if the demand is there. Right, so the more we electrify, the more we digitize, the more we do what we do, the less demand will be there for fossil fuel companies, and the markets will follow that trajectory. So it is incumbent on us to stay true to the plans and the strategies and the ambitions that we have, because if we are to fall back because someone stands up and says something that maybe we don't believe in, it doesn't mean that we should follow that. So I think it is a challenging time because of that, but the transition to data centers, AI, yes, there's a huge amount of energy, huge amount of construction, huge amount of carbon that goes into building and running those data centers. But the more modern data centers are extremely efficient in the way they run. And I'm no data center expert, right? But we do deal with customers and we do deal with their data centers. So, and some of the technological advancements that are coming down to make them more efficient as well. So there's always a balance with these things. Technology is going to evolve. The human species is going to evolve, and we have to follow that, and we have to do it in the best way.
One of our sponsors, Virtus Data Centers, are doing a brilliant job with non-fossil fuel powered data centers. Really I should make that clear. Okay, look, we've got 3 minutes to finish with. Can you just think about your decarbonisation strategies and give us any examples of things that you have set out to do but you've changed and improved upon? What have you learnt from your journey that people can maybe take away?
I think from my perspective, learning as we evolve is setting it out for I would very much refer to a transition plan. We published our first transition plan in 2022. We updated it this year. I think very much the direction of travel is the same, but in terms of some of the technological solutions. So it's very much keeping using transition plans as a tool, both internally as a planning tool, but also disclosure to keep you on that direction and course, but regularly review it. So certainly from my perspective, learning would be how valuable that transition plan is a tool for business and also your wider stakeholders.
Well, my learning is that the major tool for decarbonization is not technology or cost, it's the people. So as the hospitality industry, as the company of Radisson Hotel Group, we work with 95,000 people. Be there a political scenario change or anything, I think the whole community is kind of driven and has got the momentum to decarbonize. Now the stakeholders have started understanding that there can be a cost benefit or revenue benefit, or if nothing, the world is moving towards decarbonization, so we also have to do. So it's the people and the mindset which is the major tool towards working towards decarbonization, and that has brought us, I'm proud to say, we are among the we have been ranked as 37 on the sustainability magazine this year. So it's the people who are pushing us towards decarbonization and reaching our targets there.
Yeah, great. And I'd build on obviously the data point and the people point. Absolutely, we've got measurement systems in our sites that's giving us that intelligence as to where usage and utilities are being used. That's helping guide our people to take the right action and take some ownership for that. But my learning and our learning really is about, don't think that you're on your own in this journey. There are lots of people out there that are facing into the same challenge, trying to shoot towards the same goal. How we get there on our individual journeys will vary, but we're all shooting towards the same goal. So I'd kind of say, be bold enough to lead, but pragmatic enough to listen to those peers around you and others that can help you shape that journey.
Layton?
Yeah, I think continuing our journey, we've broken down into 5-year increments, much the same way as the CCC has, and I think that really helps us learn, adjust, course correct where needed, and bring lessons learned to bear as we continue on this journey all the way out to 2050. It's really important. That's a long time horizon, so it's important to have more short and medium term goals as well.
Targets, transparency, and people is a brilliant thing to carry in the head to end this discussion, and that ends stage 2 for Sustainability Live 2025. Panel, thank you very much for your insights. It's been brilliant. I hope that's been helpful and interesting. Thank you to you guys for joining us here. And I have to wrap up now, I'm afraid, and just say, look, have a really good, safe journey home. Thank you.